listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here to review Friday Night SmackDown from February 10th, 2023. We are just 1 week away from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Of course, I'm talking about the Elimination Chamber headlined by Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn for the Undisputed Championship. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on this SmackDown review. Of course, we have to talk about Paul Heyman and the opening segment that we saw with Sami Zayn, which was absolutely fantastic. Who would have thought that on one night we'd have Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes just deliver an absolutely clinic in a promo segment, and now we have Sami Zayn and Paul Heyman just, I don't want to say go back and forth, but really Sami Zayn being as believable can get, to the point where the people are just flat out behind this guy. Holy shit, that was an absolutely amazing opening segment. But aside from that, realistically, if you think about it, the main story about this whole SmackDown show was really Jey Uso. Where has Jey Uso been? Where has he been? Well, he is back. He arrived in the tag team title match last minute, but he arrived. But where does he lie? Where does Jey Uso lie in the Bloodline? Is he going to turn against the Bloodline, or is he going to still be aligned with his family? Again, we're going to be discussing that right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Good shit that we saw tonight on the show. We also had a four-way number one contenders match against Gunther next week for the IC title. Kross taking on Rey Mysterio, Madcap Moss, and Santos Escobar from Legado del Fantasma. We had Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville team up. Yes, Chelsea Green is at it not only on Raw, but on SmackDown as well. We had a Natalya segment, which I wasn't really interested. Lacey Evans was wrestling on the show, which nobody absolutely cared about. But realistically, let's be honest, the main thing on this show was, again, the Bloodline. It's honestly the most interesting thing in all of pro wrestling right now, so I can't really blame you if you were only interested in all that stuff. But overall, I thought this was a pretty good show. It was a pretty good SmackDown show. Was it better than the previous weeks? Not really. But overall, it definitely got the job done, and it still got me very excited for what is to come, of course, at the Elimination Chamber in a week or so. But before I get on with all this craziness, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. Plus, if you guys haven't checked out the AEW Dynamite review, where we discuss MJF versus Konosuke Takeshita, Roosh taking on Bryan Danielson in a possible match of the year candidate, definitely check it out. The link for my AEW Dynamite review will also be in the link of this video in the description below. Plus, episode 7 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. I was originally going to upload it today, but most likely I feel like tomorrow is definitely going to be the right time. I did state that I was going to upload it early because of the fact that, of course, Sunday is Super Bowl night, and honestly, nobody's gonna really watch wrestling. Everybody's going to be watching the Super Bowl, so honestly, it's a day for me to relax, so I'm going to be uploading episode 7 of the podcast tomorrow. And also the same thing goes for next week as well. Most likely I will be uploading episode 8 of the podcast as well next week, probably on the Friday or Saturday, considering that we also got Elimination Chamber on that Saturday. So next weekend is going to be a big week for WWE. Of course, we got the Elimination Chamber, and we got Sami versus Roman in the main event. Once again, the road to WrestleMania is looking very, very, very interesting. And once again, I've never been more excited for a WrestleMania in a very, and I mean this wholeheartedly, in a very long time. Let's talk about SmackDown. Overall, once again, it was a pretty good show. Was it as good as other shows? Not really. But again, the main focus was realistically the Bloodline. Paul Heyman is in the ring. He kicks off the show. Talks about how, ladies and gentlemen, his name is Paul Heyman, and as our wise man, he is here tonight to drop a few pieces of wisdom to all of us. Ever since Brock Lesnar and himself conquered The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania back in 2014, he does not offer predictions, he offers spoilers. The island of relevancy is under a two-pronged attack. Here on SmackDown, the number one challenger at the Elimination Chamber is Sami Zayn, a crazed psychopathic rebel and an insane competitor. And we get a bunch of Sami chants from the crowd. And here's our spoiler, Sami Zayn is not here this evening. Sami Zayn is challenging Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber, and he asks, can we imagine Sami Zayn walking out as WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion? The dates of the Island of Relevancy are not only attacked on SmackDown, but on Raw, we got the winner of the 2023 Royal Rumble, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, the man who backed him into a corner on Monday, and all he wants to do, and basically mocks Cody Rhodes at this point, saying, oh, I'm just going to wrestle for a wrestling title, and everybody makes it personal. And he calls Roman Reigns a dumbass. Personal? It couldn't be more personal, because these are not wrestling championships. This is the centerpiece of the Island of Relevancy. This is the very plasma that runs through the veins of the Bloodline. This is the air that we breathe. That's why we are here in WWE. It's the family crest of the Anoa'i and the Fatu dynasty. It's the tribe where Roman Reigns is the chief. And now Sami at the Chamber, Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Without these titles, there is no Island of Relevancy. And without them, there is no Bloodline, there is no Paul Heyman, and without those titles, there are no there is no Roman Reigns. And Paul Heyman continues to speak, and then all of a sudden we have a hooded figure come in through the crowd behind Paul Heyman. It's none other than the former honorarius Sami Zayn, to a huge pop, of course. I believe SmackDown was in Connecticut. Huge pop in Connecticut. And Sami Zayn looks at the WrestleMania sign, and he offers Paul Heyman the microphone. And he tells Paul Heyman to calm down. He's sweating. He's not going to hurt him, but if he wanted to, it could have been by now. And he doesn't think that would have happened. If he wanted to, he could have dropped him like a bag of dirt. No one is here to protect him. If it was a month ago, Solo would have probably been here. Jimmy would have probably been here. Also, a month ago, Jimmy would have been with them as well. He is out here now all by himself, and he thinks he knows why. He knows what everybody in the Bloodline knows. Roman Reigns' day as champion are numbered. The walls are closing in. He left the Bloodline. He walked out. Jey Uso walked out on his own. What do you think happens next? What does people like Jimmy Uso does next? He thinks he's going to side with his abusive cousin or share the room with his cousin. What about Solo Sikoa? How long does he think, Solo will last in the Bloodline? Even him, Paul, the special counsel. 2 years plus, he's been doing nothing but, just looking at Roman Reigns a little weird. And he looks at him like his sun shines like his ass, says Sami Zayn. He talks about life after Roman Reigns, and he knows what everybody of the Bloodlines knows, and the Bloodline is on its way out. And Paul, he knows he's in the business of doing predictions, but here's a spoiler. Roman has 8 days in Montreal, and this is the time that he has left. And then Sami, after that, hits Paul roughly and he doesn't hit him, he hugs him. He kind of just hugs him like strongly in a forceful manner. And he tells Paul to tell Roman that he doesn't need to worry about Cody because he will be the one to take him down. What an opening segment on the show. I really, really loved this segment for what it was, man. Everything about this, everything that they did in this segment was everything that they needed to do because of the fact that, look, everybody is making a whole fuss about WrestleMania and the fans possibly turning against Cody. We've discussed this on this show time and time and time again. Everybody is creating the scenario that, oh my God, they should make it a triple threat match because Sami is so hot. If they make it a triple threat match, you ruin Cody's moment. If you have Sami wrestle Roman Reigns on WrestleMania Night 1, you basically ruin Cody's moment, and Cody's moment by beating Roman after Sami would beat Roman on Night 1 would be rendered absolutely fucking useless. The Elimination Chamber is the right decision to go by. But also, another thing that we really need to take into consideration is that WWE right now has two stories that they are capitalizing on. They kicked off the Cody and Roman story last Monday. And everything that they did in that Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes segment, I said it on Monday. I said it on Monday very, very, very clearly. They put the narrative of, quote-unquote, the fans turning on Cody Rhodes straight to the graveyard. They put that narrative to bed. They murdered that narrative because of how good the segment was and the inclusion of reality into the storyline. Because if you really think about it, Cody and Roman, the story is very simple. The story is about family. The story is about family. But if you really, really, really think about it, people always say, and I even said it myself, the story is finally set. But if we really take into consideration regarding Cody and Roman, the story, there always was a story between Cody and Roman. Cody is very similar to his father. Very similar to his father by competing against the machine, that being WWE. The same thing that Cody did with AEW, Dusty was doing in Crockett. Same thing here. But we also got another story with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn right here, right now, is the hottest thing in all of pro wrestling right now. And this, even though we all know Sami is going to be losing at the Elimination Chamber, there is no freaking way that Roman Reigns is going to beat. There's no way that Sami Zayn is going to beat Roman Reigns. But they made you believe that Sami Zayn could actually have a chance in Montreal. I'm telling you right now, the crowd in Montreal is going to be one of the most intense crowds that Roman Reigns ever steps in the ring with. And Roman Reigns has been in front of tough crowds even before he turned heel. You guys remember the night after WrestleMania 33 back in 2017, the night after he beat The Undertaker? Oh my God. In that opening shot on Raw, Roman Reigns was literally standing in the center of the ring, just getting demolished by the crowd. Something similar is going to happen in Montreal. Roman Reigns is going to be getting that nuclear heat in Montreal, and we're going to absolutely love it because it's in Sami's hometown, and it's basically if you really think about it, the match that he's going to have with Roman in Montreal at the Elimination Chamber is going to be the biggest match of Sami Zayn's career. But overall, this was a absolutely fantastic segment. But the Bloodline doesn't end with this segment on this show. Of course, we shift our gears towards Jey Uso later on. But we'll get into that later. We got Drew McIntyre and Sheamus versus Hit Row, a match that honestly I did not care about whatsoever. Quick notes on the match: Ashante Adonis and McIntyre start. Adonis hits he doesn't hit in the face, but he goes to the face of McIntyre. Drew immediately goes for the Glasgow kiss, and he goes for the belly to belly across the ring. He sets up the Claymore kick, but then Top Dollar drags him out. And Sheamus then runs through Adonis onto the outside. He sends Adonis into the ring. We get a dropkick by Adonis back in the ring, followed by an Irish Curse backbreaker by Sheamus. He takes Adonis to the apron, but then Dollar comes in. Sheamus then hits a knee, and then he takes Top Dollar and then hits the 10 beats of the bell ring after that. Then Ashante Adonis comes from behind and goes after Sheamus, but then Sheamus counters with the white noise. Sheamus then reels up the crowd. He looks like he's about to set up the bro kick, but immediately Drew McIntyre goes for the Claymore kick, and then he lets Sheamus have his moment, and he hits the bro kick on Adonis. We get a cover, and Sheamus and Drew McIntyre win the match. Overall thoughts on this match, at this point, and I mean this with all due respect, who cares about Hit Row? Hit Row, in my opinion, has been an absolute fail on the main roster ever since they brought him back a couple of months ago. Again, Hit Row is nothing without Swerve Strickland. Just nothing without Swerve Strickland, or Isaiah Swerve Scott, as he was called in NXT. They are just nothing without him. Like, Swerve was the heart of the group, and they don't have him. They don't have an official leader of the group. They only have Top Dollar, Adonis, and B-Fab. That's all. Hit Row, they can't succeed without Swerve. They really do need a leader, and that's what they don't have right now. So if you really think about it, Hit Row is just not on the priority list, in my opinion, for WWE. And when it comes to the fans' eyes, I'm not really invested in Hit Row at all. After the match, we go to the Titantron, and they show a video package of the Viking Raiders teasing a match. I believe they're going to be wrestling next week on the Go Home show before Elimination Chamber on SmackDown. So, am I excited? Not really. I'm not really the biggest fan of the Viking Raiders at this point. I was kind of through with them already. So, I don't know why we're still continuing this feud between McIntyre and Sheamus. But, hey, man, hopefully this will be their last match. But I'm not really that invested in it. We got Jimmy Uso backstage, and he tries to call Jey Uso numerous times, a common occurrence before their tag team title match, because they will be defending their SmackDown tag team titles against Braun Strowman and Ricochet. But, of course, Jimmy is worried, and they still do not know the status of Jey Uso after the Rumble a couple of weeks ago. We get a backstage promo of Karrion Kross. Of course, he's going to be wrestling in the Fatal 4-Way match. He says that the Fatal 4-Way match is his, and Scarlett wants him to hear him say that. And then Kross says that he will make Ray suffer and punt him down. After that, we got Lacey Evans. So we went from an amazing Paul Heyman and Sami Zayn segment all the way to Lacey Evans. Yeah, that's very, very interesting on WWE's part, in my opinion. Lacey Evans is not good, ladies and gentlemen. They show, you want to show how much they, in my opinion, now this is just my personal opinion, I don't think this was the intention, but like, it was so funny. Like, they try to keep like the audience just like, invested in this whole Jimmy Uso storyline, that while Lacey Evans was making her entrance, they showed backstage Jimmy Uso trying to call Jey Uso. So more fans were focused on that than they were on Lacey Evans, which was funny as hell. But after that, the match starts. We get a takedown by Lacey Evans. We get repeated clotheslines by Lacey Evans on her opponent in the corner. And after that, we get a roll-up by Evans. We get a near fall. Cameron Harris, who is her opponent, who was a jobber, gets driven into the corner. She sends Harris into the corner again, but then Lacey shows off doing push-ups, and then she drives her into the corner, and then she goes for the women's right and then applies the Cobra Clutch. Lacey Evans wins the match in a match where nobody cared about, and in a match in which there was crickets in the crowd. Literally, the whole crowd was absolutely freaking dead. I don't care if there were boos. I didn't care. The crowd is just absolutely dead. I am not a fan of Lacey Evans whatsoever. I'm sorry. She sucks. We go back to Jimmy Uso, and he continues to struggle calling Jey Uso. And he goes to Heyman and says that he's been trying all day and we got nothing. And then Paul Heyman asks him a question. He had held hostage by a psychopathic comedian, or Canadian, I should say. I said comedian. What the hell? Canadian. Not one member of his family came out to help him. And he asks Jimmy where he was. Of course, he's referring to the opening segment with Sami Zayn. And Paul said, basically, Jimmy says that I was literally busy trying to call Jey because I have a title match. And then Paul says that he's going to have to do it on his own. It is what it is. So we got Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso versus Ricochet and Braun Strowman. Overall thoughts on this match. This match was very good. I really enjoyed this match for what it was, man. When the WWE was doing this whole SmackDown Tag Team Title #1 Contenders tournament, whatever the hell they wanted to call it, I was very curious because at the same time, WWE on the Raw side did a Tag Team Turmoil for the Raw Tag Team titles. And a lot of people were speculating that WWE were going to be splitting up the tag team titles, and most likely the Usos were going to be losing the Raw tag team titles. That's what I initially thought until we headed to Raw 30, and we knew that wasn't the case. And it would have made more sense if the Usos lost the Raw Tag Team titles, if you really think about it, because the SmackDown Tag Team titles were the titles. The SmackDown Tag Team titles are the more important titles that the Usos have. But I think at this point, I think having the Usos have both titles is definitely the right direction to go, because they are eventually going to be dropping them towards Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. But we got Jimmy Uso coming out alone in this match. And what happens is they do the introductions for the match. And what happens is Jey Uso shows up last minute, and he shows up walking down through the crowd, which was freaking awesome. And you had the crowd just absolutely go ballistic for Jey Uso. Of course, Jey Uso, a lot of people would say he quote-unquote turned babyface at the Royal Rumble by walking out on Jimmy, Roman, Solo, and Paul after they went and attacked Sami Zayn. And then he goes into the ring and he embraces Jimmy Uso. So, quick notes on the match. This was a very good match. You know, I was not the biggest fan of Braun Strowman and Ricochet to be in the finals. I really wanted Drew and Sheamus to be in the finals. But, you know, at the same time, you did have Drew and Sheamus feud at the same time with the Viking Raiders. So, I kind of understood what they were going, but at the same time, I didn't really like I didn't like the direction that they went with it by having the Raiders just immediately attack them, which would then to have them immediately disqualified from the tournament. I just did not like that whatsoever. But overall, man, this match was very, very good. I loved the finish of this match. But I'm going to go for quick notes on the match. Jey and Ricochet fight it out. We got a right hand by Jey Uso. Jey tags Jimmy. We get repeated rights by Jimmy, but then Jimmy is the legal man. Ricochet hits a running kick on Jimmy, knocking Jimmy onto the outside. Ricochet then tries to tag in Braun Strowman, but then Jimmy holds Ricochet back. Ricochet goes for a springboard crossbody. At that point, the hot tag is made. Braun Strowman runs through Jey Uso, followed by a splash into the corner by Jey. Braun then hits a right, knocking down Jey Uso. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Jey then ducks, and Braun goes to the outside, but then we get a super kick by Jey Uso. Jimmy then comes towards Braun, but Braun catches him with a furious right hand. Then Jey later on goes for a tope suicida, followed by a super kick on Braun. After that, Jey goes for the crossbody off the top, but then Braun Strowman picks up Jey. Jey then goes for the super kick. Ricochet goes for a crossbody and then goes for a springboard moonsault. At this point, Ricochet is going absolutely fucking crazy. So he goes for the springboard moonsault, follows with a running shooting star press. We get a cover by Ricochet and a near fall. Ricochet then picks him up. Jimmy, when Ricochet picks Jey up, Jimmy goes for the blind tag, and Ricochet did not even notice it. After that, Jimmy goes for the blind tag, spinning enziguri by Jimmy. Braun is the legal man. We get a running knee by Ricochet, followed by a running power slam by Braun on Jimmy Uso. Ricochet then tags in, and he's on the shoulders of Strowman, and Ricochet goes for the Swanton Bomb off the top of the shoulders of Braun Strowman, which looks pretty sick. And then we get a cover, and Jey immediately from the outside drags Ricochet to the outside. And what happens is Braun, it looks like he's about to run through Jey Uso by just pouncing him like crazy, but instead Jey ducks, and Braun Strowman lands through the announce tables area. Ricochet after that goes for a somersault. Ricochet then goes to the top, but then Jimmy goes for the right. Jey Uso then goes for the blind tag, but then Ricochet pushes Jimmy away. After that, Ricochet goes for the shooting star. So this was actually my favorite portion of the whole match, the finish. This finish was so badass. So Ricochet pushes Jimmy off the top, and then Ricochet goes for a shooting star press. But meanwhile, Ricochet actually does not notice it. Jey, on the other corner of the ring, goes for the Uso splash. And when I mean this was a clean-ass Uso splash, I mean it. This was the cleanest Uso splash that I have fucking seen in my life. And then Jey hits it. We get a cover, and Jey and Jimmy retain the tag team titles. Overall, man, this was a great fucking match. I loved this match. Every second of it. I love the story that they were telling, especially regarding Jey and Jimmy. Of course, there's a lot of tension going on within the Bloodline right now, and we're really asking ourselves, whose side is Jimmy Uso on? I think we're going to be finding that out at the Elimination Chamber, but it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see what they are going to be doing in the near future. Rey Mysterio backstage says that there's nothing that will prevent him from winning the Fatal 4-Way to become the new Intercontinental Champion. We fast forward to Jimmy and Jey Uso backstage. Jimmy asks him, well, actually, no, Jey just constantly like celebrating with Jimmy, but then Jimmy's asking like, where you been? It's been a rough couple of weeks with Roman and the Bloodline. And then Jimmy asks him if he is in or he is out. But then Paul Heyman, and this is what I like, man, Triple H loves his Easter eggs. We always see those Easter eggs backstage on Raw. But, man, this was a very good Easter egg. I mean, it was a very, very noticeable Easter egg, but I don't really want to call it an Easter egg, but it is what it is. It's basically an Easter egg. So when Jimmy asks Jey, are you in or are you out, Jey replies, I don't know. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman is in the background listening to this whole conversation go down. And after that, Jey, after replying, I do not know, Paul Heyman, or I should say Jey leaves, and then Paul Heyman comes in, and he asks him if that is his brother, and says, what did he say? And Jimmy's like, nothing. So if you really think about it, he lied. If you think about it, he technically lied to Paul Heyman. So there's a lot of bullshit going down right here in the Bloodline, and you know what? I am absolutely down for it. Very interesting stuff, by the way. We get a Natalya segment. Very rare that we get Natalya cutting a promo. Talks about how she feels good heading into the Elimination Chamber match. She says, for the first time in 15 years, Shayna Baszler took her out. Shayna broke her nose, and long after the blood dried, she still saw red. She'll say that there's nothing more than a cheap knockoff version of Ronda Rousey. And next week in Montreal, she will win the Elimination Chamber and punch her ticket to WrestleMania. After that, Shayna Baszler comes out, and she proceeds to judge Natalya, talking about how she says that she's sick and tired of everyone dismissing her accomplishments. Truth is, she was fighting before Ronda all over the world, and she was signed to this company, winning titles before Ronda. Ronda Rousey then finally makes her triumphant return after dropping the title to Charlotte, and then Shayna pushes Ronda towards Natalya, or I should say Shayna pushes away Ronda towards Natalya, and then Shayna goes for the cheap shot. Then both Ronda and Shayna looks like they're in cahoots, and they both attack Natalya, and then Shotzi comes in for the save, but then the heels gain the advantage, and Shayna Baszler, after that, just stands tall. So, yeah, what are my thoughts on this? This is probably my least favorite segment. I'm not that really invested in Natalya, Ronda Rousey, or Shayna Baszler at this point, to be quite honest with you. I just feel like there's just no direction, especially with Ronda Rousey. There's no direction with her whatsoever, and I don't know why she's back. I mean, I get that they have her in the WWE for her name value, but let's be honest with ourselves. Do you watch the show because of Ronda Rousey? No, you watch the show because of the Bloodline. That's all I'm going to say right there. Jey Uso, they're showing big Jey Uso walking, and he runs towards his quote-unquote former, or I should say still, closest and best friend, Sami Zayn. He tells Jey, welcome back. And he doesn't want him to put him in a tough space. And he knows Roman well, but he knows Roman better. He talks about how it meant the world for him when he saw Jey did what he did at the Royal Rumble. And we're 8 days away from something huge. He wanted to see for a long time, and Roman, he knew for a fact that Jey wanted to see this for a long time, that is, Roman going down. Sami immediately tells Jey that he is going down, and only wanted to tell him that he doesn't have to go down the ship. There is a way out of this. And there's a slow pause, and after that, Sami Zayn tells Jey that he acknowledges Jey Uso, and he offers him a fist pump, and both go for the fist pump, and it looks like Jey and Sami Zayn are in cahoots once again, man. And this was good shit that we saw, man. I really loved this. This was absolutely fantastic. We all know what is coming. What they are, in my opinion, what they are doing at the Elimination Chamber is having Jey Uso come in, and it looks like he's going to be a babyface, but he's going to turn on Sami Zayn. And basically, they're going to have the Bloodline, just demolish Sami Zayn after losing to Roman Reigns, to the point where they're going to be bringing in Kevin Owens to make the save, and then you set up your match between the Usos and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. I say that because of the fact that if they do this, because, again, there's a lot of fans on the internet that are so concerned that the fans are going to be turning on Cody Rhodes, but I say this right here, right now. When Jey Uso causes Sami Zayn the titles at the Elimination Chamber main event, what they're doing is they're shifting the heat that Roman had coming out of the Royal Rumble over to Jey. And they're going to make the Usos just absolutely menaces, just absolutely menacing heels, to the point where fans are going to be wanting to pay Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn just beat the shit out of the Usos for those titles. That is exactly what is going to be happening, in my opinion. And you know what? I am absolutely down with that because it is the right direction to go by. We get an LA Knight interview. It talks about how he doesn't want to talk about Bray Wyatt, and they're looking forward to the future, and the future is LA Knight. Good God, I'm so tired, man. After this, we got Adam Pearce with Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville has been complaining towards Adam Pearce for a long-ass time. Chelsea Green then comes in, talks about how she wants... So basically, this is the funniest shit, man. Chelsea Green comes in, and she says she wants to look for the SmackDown manager to file a complaint against the Raw manager. Adam Pearce says, oh yeah, I'm the SmackDown manager. I'm the manager for both shows. And then Chelsea Green says that she has facial amnesia. She asks Pearce if he was discriminating against her. And then Pearce says, absolutely not. And then he looks closer to Sonya Deville and says, could you believe how close he is talking to us? And Sonya says that there is no us. And Pearce says that, you know what? You guys should win to earn an equal opportunity. And he basically makes them both team up in a match against both Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. I'm absolutely loving Chelsea Green's character. She's basically putting over a character that is just completely outlandish. Basically, if you think about it, Chelsea Green's character is the definition of a Karen. That is exactly what they're doing with Chelsea Green, and she totally fits that role so well. It is so entertaining to watch Chelsea Green just go ballistic for no fucking reason, literally judging Adam Pearce for the simplest shit. I'm down with that. I always dug Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green is such a good heel. Now, we're waiting for, hopefully, maybe in the near future now. I believe Matt Cardona is an Impact, but hey, Matt Cardona, you got to get your foot in the door. Just saying. We then get Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green versus Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. Pretty much a nothing match. Both lock up. Sonya goes for the shoulder tackle. We get a drop kick by Liv Morgan, followed by a running hip attack into the corner. We get a running knee into the corner by Liv, and then Liv runs into a knee by Sonya. We get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Chelsea Green is the legal woman, and then we get a cover by Green and a near fall. Sonya then tags back, and then Green pulls the hair of Liv, but then Sonya by accident hits Chelsea Green. Raquel then tags in. She manages to hit the lariat, followed by the follow-away slam. She then goes for the corkscrew elbow. We get a cover and a near fall. Chelsea Green then tags in. She doesn't want to go in, but then Raquel then takes Green into the ring forcefully. Green then by accident knocks somebody out, or I should say, I believe she knocked out Sonya. And then Raquel then has Green up. She goes for the Tahana Bomb. And then Liv Morgan, after going for the blind tag, she is the legal woman, and she goes for the Oblivion. We got a cover, and Raquel, after that, power bombs Liv on Green, and we get a cover, and the baby faces get the win. Again, pretty much a nothing match, but again, I'm very much digging Chelsea Green and her Karen character. It is the funniest shit I have seen in a while. Michael Cole interviews Charlotte Flair, who is the current SmackDown Women's Champion. Michael Cole he doesn't ask, but he tells Charlotte that they have a lot of history together. Charlotte says that 3 years ago, Rhea chose her when Charlotte won the Women's Royal Rumble. She knew that she was the mountain to climb, and they had their Mania match, and she was impressed. She was young, green and wasn't ready, and Charlotte won. Now it's 3 years later, and now she is ready. And she would hope she is sorry, and she is saying the same thing. There are levels to this, and Cole asks if Rhea is finally on her level. And then Charlotte replies, it will take more than 3 years to be on her level. She didn't put her in her place 3 years ago. She taught her a lesson. Now, she will put her in her place once and for all. There's only one solution and one outcome that WWE needs to do for the Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley match at WrestleMania. It's pretty obvious. Charlotte should not retain that title at WrestleMania. You put all of this time and effort in building up Rhea Ripley for these past few months in Judgment Day, ever since Triple H took over. It would make absolutely no sense for Rhea Ripley to lose to Charlotte Flair. I even heard pitches that they would have Rhea Ripley squash Charlotte. Now, I don't know about that, but I mean, is it really far-fetched? But at the end of the day, who needs to win the title is Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley has done some of the best work of her career, and I think it'd be very foolish if WWE did not put the belt on Charlotte. Keep in mind, this was a match that I did not even want to see anyway. I get why they kind of did this match because of the fact that they had story and they did have a previous WrestleMania match 3 years ago. But if you really think about it, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair is a feud that I would have definitely wanted to see. And Rhea Ripley beating Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's title is something that I wanted to see. But not only that, another thing, if you really, really, really think about it, the match that I would have had Charlotte wrestle in at WrestleMania would have been against Asuka, and I would have had Asuka just beat Charlotte Flair. Because keep in mind, Charlotte and Asuka also do have history together. I believe Asuka had that long-ass undefeated streak, and her first loss was to Charlotte at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans back in 2018. So there was a lot of history there, and right now WWE, I don't want to say repackaged, but they definitely, changed Asuka's gimmick into her old Kana gimmick, and now she's going to be absolutely fucking going crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put the belt on her later this year. But overall, that is my thoughts on this whole Charlotte Flair segment. We got a Fatal 4-Way number 1 contenders match for the IC title. The winners will face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. So it's Karrion Kross versus Rey Mysterio versus Madcap Moss versus Santos Escobar. Overall thoughts on the match, it was a pretty good match overall. I thought it was a great match. Madcap Moss winning is a pretty weird decision for me. I mean, I get why they didn't do Kross, Rey Mysterio, or Santos Escobar because they really want to protect those guys, especially Kross and Santos. I feel like Santos is definitely going to get somewhat of a push this year. Kross, I'm not sure. I mean, I've so far been a fan of Kross ever since he returned, but if you weren't really that big of a fan of Kross, I can't really blame you either, because let's be honest, after his Drew McIntyre feud, what was really Kross doing after that? He had this small quote-unquote feud with Rey Mysterio, but really, where did that lead Karrion Kross to? Let's be honest, it kind of led him to nowhere. But overall, this was a relatively good match, and Moss getting the win. I mean, let's be honest, Gunther's gonna beat the shit out of this guy next week. But Moss goes after Kross. Both exchange shots. Madcap Moss then gets taken to the outside. Kross then takes out Rey face first into the corner post. After that, Santos Escobar and Kross argue to go after Rey Mysterio. Kross then dumps Santos Escobar to the outside. We get a boot on Rey Mysterio. Rey then goes for a senton off the top. Rey runs into a big boot by Kross, but then Santos comes in. We get a couple of chops by Kross, but then Santos launches Rey into a Hurricane Rana on Kross, which looked amazing. Springboard crossbody caught by Moss. Moss then goes for the follow-away slam on Rey, throwing Rey onto Santos Escobar. After that, he runs towards Santos and Rey in each different corner of the ring, just going back and forth. After that, we get a knee by Santos Escobar. Santos and Rey Mysterio face off. We get a drop kick by Escobar. We get a cover by Santos and a near fall. Rey then lands on the apron, goes for the Enziguri and goes to the top. He manages to hit the Hurricane Rana. After that, Escobar hits a backbreaker. We get a cover and a near fall. Rey, after that, takes Escobar to the middle rope Escobar escapes standing on the apron, but then both Kross and Madcap Moss are on the outside. Rey then launches himself on the outside, but then Santos goes for the Tope Suicida. Once we're back from commercial break, Kross is in control over Santos Escobar. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Kross throws Rey across the ring. And then he proceeds to boot Madcap Moss. We get a cover by Kross and a near fall. Moss then runs through Kross, but then he runs through Escobar. And then he runs through Rey, and then we get a right hand by Kross, followed by a spinebuster by Madcap Moss. We get a cover and a near fall. He catches Santos Escobar after that. He picks him up, but then Santos Escobar escapes. We get a roll-up by Escobar, and we get a near fall, followed by a dropkick by Escobar. We get a cover once again and a near fall. Escobar then goes for the drop toe hold on Rey Mysterio, followed by a right hand on Kross. Rey goes for the dropkick, and we get a cover and a near fall. We get a back elbow, followed by a double team by both Moss and Kross. DDT by Rey Mysterio on Karrion Kross, followed by the Phantom Driver on Rey by Escobar. So both got everybody's basically exchanging spots at this point. We get a cover into near fall, and then Escobar goes to the top rope, but then Moss also comes up. He picks up Escobar, but then Escobar escapes. Escobar then goes for the Hurricane Rana, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Kross then says Escobar to the outside, follows up with a sunset flip by Rey Mysterio, and after that, Kross gets Rey up, and then we get repeated rights by Rey, and then he gets sent to the middle rope. Rey manages to hit the 619 after that, but then Scarlett gets involved, driving Rey onto the ring apron, and then Kross goes for the cross hammer across the neck, or I should say the back of the neck of Rey Mysterio. But then Escobar takes Kross to the outside, and then Moss goes for an elbow on Rey, and we get a cover, and Moss wins the match, and he will now face Gunther for the Intercontinental title next week on SmackDown. Overall, pretty good match, pretty good Fatal 4-Way. Personally, I wouldn't have put this as the main event. I would have much rather had the tag team title match be the main event, but for the story that they were telling, I kind of did understand why they did that, because after this, Paul Heyman is backstage with Jimmy, and Paul Heyman says that he was just on the phone with our tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, and he says that his brother is very loyal to him, and they have an assignment next week. He needs to he needs them to watch the show on TV. Sometimes, and this is the lasting line that Paul Heyman stated, there are some things you see on TV that you don't see here live. And that was the ending of SmackDown. That's a very interesting line that Paul Heyman stated. There are some things you see on TV that you don't see here live. Of course, that is mentioning Paul Heyman listening to the whole discussion between both Jimmy and Jey. Shit is definitely going to get 100% real, and I'm 100% here for it. That was absolutely fucking awesome. Again, the highlights always on SmackDown are these Bloodline segments because you are absolutely invested in what the fuck you are watching. And Montreal is going to be an absolutely amazing match. It's going to have an amazing match between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, and the story itself is just going to be fantastic in my opinion. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from February 10th, 2023. Overall thoughts on this show. This was a pretty good show for what it was. But again, the main focus on this show was Sami Zayn, the Usos, Jey Uso in particular, and Paul Heyman. Nothing else. And you know what? They absolutely delivered 110%. Everything else on the show, fine overall. There were some duds there on the show, but it is what it is. There were kind of, if you really think about it, they're kind of minor duds. But again, the main thing about this show was definitely the Bloodline. But yeah, man, that was my SmackDown review from February 10th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications to be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. So, as always, it is Flamin' Rick from the WrestleHavoc Podcast, signing out. See you guys later.